Okay, so the final part of the book has some pieces here, and Kirkman writes that she says that these are examples of style and expression from celebrated masters. I would recommend that you read her preface to this, but I want to read a little bit to you because it's very interesting what she writes. I think especially towards the end. So I'm reading 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about the 10th line from the bottom. She says, "In stopping the notes, the fingers of the left hand must give to each note its exact value in reference to the general time of the piece, observing a judicious prolongation of such notes as belong to one harmony, also a strict observance of the true time, and a due regard to the accented part of each bar, and to pay the utmost attention to the nice degrees of acceleration or retardation which are marked. The gradations of piano and forte are produced by the right hand touching the strings nearer or further from the bridge." That's a huge emphasis. I'll read it again. "The gradations of piano and forte are produced by the right hand touching the strings nearer or further from the bridge. To produce a mellow and sustained sound, the strings should be touched in the middle between the bridge and the sound hole. And for a firm, loud tone, touch strongly near the bridge, and for piano, touch lightly nearest the sound hole." So dynamics and color were linked together. This isn't the only example. If you look at Sydney Pratton's guitar school, she goes into even more detail about this. This is a huge thing because a lot of modern players they do change dynamics, but they don't change the color. So generally if you're playing piano, you should be moving your hand towards the fretboard, and if you're playing forte, you should be moving your hand towards the soundboard, towards the bridge. To argue against that is very difficult because there's just the number of quotes from method books is pretty outnumbered there in favor of moving the hand like that. So I think there is a little bit of a school of thought where people think 19th century music should be very straightforward and very pure or something like that, and so we shouldn't change the color much. But if you listen to guitarists like Segovia and Bream, they were probably a lot closer to the correct performance practice, or at least the performance practice suggested by the method books of the 19th century, than a lot of modern guitarists of today are. I think 19th century performance practice should be taken more seriously. We have university departments devoted entirely to early music from the 18th century and prior to that, but for some reason the 19th century we just assume that we kind of know how it was done back then, even though we don't seriously study the materials that we have available to us. So this is part of what I want the Resourceful Guitarist to be about, exploring these method books and finding ways to apply the information that's in there so that we can play the music in perhaps a closer way to how they were playing it back then. I know I'm a hypocrite because I'm using a Craig Smallman guitar, but I do want to get a 19th century guitar one soon as well. So, but you know, the guitar, the instrument you use is only one small part of performance practice. You can be using a 19th century guitar and be playing nothing like they were playing in the era. So the information, I think, is equally, or if not more important than the instrument you're using. So there's my little spiel about that. So something to think about, perhaps. All right, so on to some pieces.